Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So, as promised, here are my 7 horses that have been dropped in the handicap today by the handicapper that I think were kindly dropped potentially, and I think can certainly go on and win again soon, or bounce back soon, and win a race or two. So the first one I want to talk about is a horse called Jacomar. Now, I highlighted Jacomar as being very interesting when he finished third in a 3-runner affair at Wincanton. He got close to horses rated much higher. And then at the weekend on Saturday, he took on one horse at Doncaster and finished second. So in his last 2 runs, he's actually finished last of 3 and last of 2. And yet I think both runs have shown plenty of promise. At Wincanton, they were better horses, and at Doncaster, I think they were better horses. I don't know what Doncaster is. Doncaster are better horses. Flicko Voyou beat him at Doncaster at the weekend. I think that horse was ahead of his mark anyway, just hadn't really put things together. In the 2-runner affair, I thought the favourite and the winner ran a really good race, and I thought Jacomar would be left alone on his mark of 130. To see him dropped £2 for finishing second when I didn't think there was anything wrong with his performance. He just got beat by a horse that is actually better than its own handicap mark, and just hadn't put things together. Got his own way at Doncaster and went on to win. So don't give up on Jacomar. Hopefully we'll see him in a bit of a bigger field next time, maybe 7 or 8 runners, and we can really see how good Jacomar is. He can obviously run in something like a 0 to 130 novice handicap chase, and I think he would go very, very close. The second horse I want to talk about is the old boy Chittabello. Chittabello finished 5th at Newbury. On his return, he hadn't run for 350 days, and the handicapper dropped him £3 to a mark of 144. Now, interestingly, that's actually £2 lower than when winning the county hurdle. And you can see since winning this county hurdle, he's not run poorly. Third, 5th, 3rd, 2nd, 6th. But that was a grade 1 at Cheltenham. I think it was the champion hurdle. No, it wasn't the champion hurdle. It was the Unibet hurdle. And I don't think there was anything wrong with those runs. He had the year off. He's come back. He looked like he was going to, probably pull up. But they didn't pull him up. And I just feel that they made sure he finished the race to make sure the handicapper does look at him and does reassess him. If you put a horse up sometimes too early, the handicapper goes, well, I couldn't assess that, so I'm not going to change his mark. He's dropped £3 to 144. It would be very ambitious, but I wonder if they've got the county hurdle, a return to the county hurdle in mind. When he won the county hurdle, it was really impressive. And I wouldn't be against them plotting a route back to the county hurdle this year. Potentially take on some better horses next time in a graded race. See what he does. Hope he doesn't get too close. And then turn up in March. Obviously, he is 10. He's obviously had problems. The fact he was off for a year, so he wouldn't need too much racing. Give him one more run and then go back to Cheltenham for the county hurdle. If you turned up, say, another £2 lower, so off 142, you'd be £4 lower than when winning the county hurdle. Okay, it might be that he needs a bit further now, but I don't think there was anything wrong with some of his efforts, particularly his third at Kempton in the Christmas hurdle. That was fine, and that could be where they go next with him, back to the Christmas hurdle, and then go for the county hurdle after that. The third horse I want to talk about is Grand Sancy. Now, obviously, I highlighted him in my previous video. I'd like to see him back over hurdles. He did drop £1 to 138, and if he returns to hurdles and they give him a mark of 138, that would only be £2 higher than when he was 4th back here over hurdles at Ascot, when obviously he was running in some novice events and some decent races, some listed events, and going really well. This 4th came in a handicap off a mark of 136, but he was beaten that day by Mohaed, Lisp, and Western Rider. Now, Mohaed obviously went on to win a county hurdle. Lisp never fulfilled his potential at all, but was better than, right at the top of the handicap, I felt. And Western Rider had previously gone really well in the Supreme Novice, so it was a good race. Grand Sansi was only 4 that day, so running in a handicap as a 4-year-old, he was always going to be up against it. But he ran a really respectable race. With that experience now under his belt, I would like to see him return to hurdles, because I didn't think he jumped great at Newbury. Return to hurdles, find a 2.5 mile race. If he gets the same handicap mark as he has over fences, then I think he can go very close in a handicap in the near future. So Grand Sansi has dropped £1 and he caught my eye. Next horse I want to talk about was Mr. Coffee. I highlighted via the above video and also in a tweet that I thought Mr. Coffee would improve for that run at Newbury. He was third behind Not Available or I'm Available, one of the two, Not Available, and Solo. I think all of those in the race had chase experience apart from Mr. Coffee. And he ran okay. He seemed to lack a bit of fluency at some of his fences, and that should come with more experience over fences. And dropping £1 to 137, I thought that was very lenient. I would have left him alone. I think he's better than his 137 mark for sure. It's whether they can get him to be less erratic in his run. He looks like he could do this all his career. But if that experience over the fences straightens him out, then he can definitely win off a mark of 137, and I'd expect to see him in a decent race next time. Also from that race that is interesting, I feel, is 50 Ball. Now, 50 Ball went off 3-1 in a good race against the aforementioned Mr. Coffee and Solo and the others. And I just think he's not quick enough for 2 mile. You can see that early on in his career at Fontwell, they stepped him up to 2 mile 3. Over hurdles, they ran over 2 mile 3 at Ascot. Then he won over 2 mile at Sandown, but that was on heavy going. And I just think this 2 mile trip over on good to soft going is probably not far enough for him, or not enough of a stamina test. And I think they might go back over 2.5 mile next time. With the 2.5 mile in mind, I was surprised to see him drop £2 to 133. And I think that gives him a great chance if the step back up in trip suits him. He's definitely clearly unexposed. I think he's still improving. It wasn't his best run, but I think there was reasons, and you can forgive him that run, and he can go back to being a progressive horse. Now, the next horse I want to talk about is Kitty's Light now. Kitty's Light went off 16-1 for the Ladbroke Trophy, the Hennessy, after some good runs, finishing second at Sandown at the end of last season, second at Chepstow at the beginning of this season, which I think was a mistake because it was raised £6 for that, and then finished second at Wetherby in the race that Shan Blue obviously was going to win before falling, and Fusel Raffles went on to win the race. Now, I know Connections feel that he wants good ground, and that's all they want to run him on, and they think that the good to soft ground was against him. Possibly. But I just wonder whether it was Newbury. Interestingly, look at his form. Third, first, second, first, third, fourth, third. He's running well. 7th. Newbury. First, second, second. Never ran at Newbury. His only other run at Newbury was a disappointing effort. He was beaten a long way. I wonder whether he just doesn't want Newbury. And maybe good to soft at Newbury just really doesn't suit him. I'd like to give him one more chance on good to soft, maybe soft conditions. I did hope they were going to go for soft, heavy conditions at Chepstow for the Welsh National. I thought that would really suit. Nathaniel Progeny do have a good record on soft and heavy going, but I know Connections aren't keen on that. I'd give him one more chance wherever he goes next, Kitty's Light. If it doesn't work, particularly if they go to a course that he's run well at, Sandown, for example, or even back to Chepstow, then, okay, maybe the ground is the determining factor for Kitty's Light. But the fact that he was dropped £2 to 147, I think he's a 155 horse at least, when he gets his conditions or runs at a track that suits him. And maybe it was Newbury, as I said, that didn't suit him. So I definitely want to keep Kitty's Light on side going forward. I'll give him one more chance on good to soft sort of conditions, and then if not, wait for the drier ground come the spring and early summer, potentially obviously being aimed at a return for the Bet365 Gold Cup at Sandown on the final day of the season. The last horse I want to talk about was Mr. Malarkey, and crazy in my opinion, he was dropped £6 here to a mark of 142. That's £9 he's dropped in the last 2 runs, and he's ran in this race before. He unseated in it last year, but he's also finished 6th in it a few years ago in 2019, and he didn't stay that day. And I just feel that he didn't stay again. He didn't travel anywhere near as good as he usually does. But one thing that I think is very interesting is, on my last video when I talked about Mr. Malarkey, I also highlighted that Ben Aitken from Narrowing the Field, had highlighted Mr. Malarkey. And one of his criteria here is fields of 14 or less in November to February, official rating of 150 or less. Well, he ticks the 150 or less now. It's November to February. Fields of 14 or less? I don't think so. This is a massive race. What was it, 22 in the Ladbroke Trophy? Wait until he runs in a handicap where there are less runners. I think he just got overawed by the occasion again. Find him a handicap where 10, 12 go to post, and I think he's going to go really close off a mark 142. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. The Ascot race in a couple of weeks is potentially a target. Obviously, he's won it before. I don't see why he couldn't win it again. And hopefully, if the handicapper's drop is ignored by a lot of people, we could get a decent price on him returning to Ascot and winning that race again, which would be nice. So they are my, 7 from this week. Jacomar, I thought his £2 drop was lenient considering he was beaten by a horse that I think was ahead of its mark. Chittabello was dropped £3. That's now £2 lower than when winning the county hurdle. He ran on quite nicely. He hadn't run for 350 days, so he should hopefully improve for that run. Grand Sancy, I want to see back over hurdles, has some decent form over hurdles. I think is just struggling with fences at the moment. Dropped £1 to 138, which isn't far off when he finished 4th in a decent handicap at Ascot. Mr. Coffee, I think, will improve for the chase experience. He dropped £1 to 137. I think he's a little bit potentially erratic or tricky to ride, but if they get things right with him, he can go much higher than the 137. 50 Ball, I think, needs to step up and trip. Dropped £2 to 133, but probably isn't quick enough for the 2 miles, so go back up to 2.5. Kitty's Light dropped £2 to 147. I think that's lenient if it was Newbury that was the issue. If it wasn't Newbury and it was the ground, I still want to give him one more go on the ground. And if it doesn't work, then wait for the spring round with him. Potentially, obviously, a return for the Bet365 Gold Cup at Sandown. And Mr. Malarkey dropped another £6 down to 142. That's £9 in 2 runs. Just wants a smaller field. And hopefully that'll be soon, maybe at Ascot in a couple of weeks. So thanks for listening. I am just about to go. No, not yet. I want to go and get some chocolate. I haven't had chocolate the whole month in November. I don't eat a lot of chocolate. It's not like I'm desperate for it. But when it gets to the 1st of December, I'm going to have a little bit of chocolate. So thanks for listening, guys. Let's hopefully these can go and win some races for us in the near future.